Okay, one second.
No, it's stopped sharing.
Okay, one second. Just give me a minute.
Yeah.
Rohini ma'am, shall we start? Yeah,
Yes, sir, certainly.
yeah, can you go to the slide, first slide? You can put it on the.
Sure. Yeah. We are ready. I'm ready to go.
Ma'am, please go to your PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, I'm on my PowerPoint presentation itself.
We are not able to see it. Can you just click once again on the PowerPoint?
I think so. I'll have to stop sharing and start sharing again. Can you see it now?
Yes, visible. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, should I start?
1 second. 1 minute, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, some background sound, some voice is coming.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just turning it off. Um,
Yeah. 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 Yes, now fine, ma'am. No problem.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, we'll start. Yeah.
So, should I speak or? Um,
I will start. I will start, ma'am. Yes. You can go to you can go to your first slide where we have that your first slide. Yes, yes. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Good afternoon to all of you. Institutions Innovation Council of Goa University. Welcome you for this wonderful evening session on a successful startup founder. And today we have our speaker, Ms. Rohini Gonsalves, founder and director of Sheravat Healthcare and Nursing Private Limited. On behalf of Goa University and Institution Council, and from on behalf of all participants, I welcome you, ma'am, for this particular your lecture, and we all of us were eagerly waiting to hear you.
thank you.
Yes, I just give me a couple of 1 or 2 minutes just to give a brief sort of a biodata of our speaker. The person who follows the crowd will usually go no further than the crowd. The person who walks alone is likely to find himself in places no one has ever seen before. These are the words of Albert Einstein. Inspired and driven by this belief, Miss Rohini Gonsalves has always chosen the path less traveled. Starting her career in a small startup in 2004, which grew to become one of the first unicorns in mobile gaming, she grew up through the corporate echelons of telecom VS over the next decade. Being a PG in marketing, sales management, and sales promotion, and with a penchant for technology and sales, she mastered business development, marketing, and relationship management. a tough taskmaster, and a compassionate team leader helped her manage her sales and operations teams spread across the country. Driven by the desire to begin her own enterprise, she decided to take a sabbatical and move to Goa in 2013. Around the same time, her mother took ill and had to be hospitalized several times over a month. This forced her to look for service providers to cater the various needs of elderly. Appalling lack of credible and reliable healthcare struck her chord. Thus was sown the seed for Sevarat. After a deep understanding of the needs faced by families with the aged members, she decided to start Sevarat as a dedicated senior care service providing timely, reliable, and professional care to the elderly with their own homes. Sevarat was initiated on 15 October 2015 as a sole proprietorship. Despite the hurdles and lack of adequate manpower, the organization grew from milestone to milestone, and finally, on 7th September 2017, Sevarat became a private limited company named Sevarat Healthcare and Nursing Private Limited, an organization driven by world-class HR practices and quality standards. Sevarat owes its unprecedented success to its employees whose excellent services have brought in references via word of mouth to aid the growth. Under the other startups in the country focused on multi-million dollar valuations and exist, Rohini and Sevarat have been focused on delivering value to the customers and building a sturdy, scalable business model from the ground up. Reinvesting 100% profits and continuously improving the quality and content of the services offered, Sevarat has completed 3 years plus on unit economics. Our values and professionalism are at the root of our growth and shall continue to the cornerstone of organization in the years to come. These are the words of Sevarat. With these remarks, I welcome you, ma'am, to this session and I hand over this particular session to you. I request all the participants to keep your mics mute and at the end of the webinar, once madam session is over, you will be given a chance to interact with the madam. Along with that, I will also send you the link for the feedback, which you need to fill and send it later. Yeah. Thank you very much. I welcome ma'am once again and request you to start your lecture.
Thank you very much, Dr. Duri, and thank you, Professor Rodrigues, for inviting me to give this talk today. Actually, it is quite heartening to see that, Sevarat has been listed as one of the successful startups. I don't think I can advise anyone on how to be successful, but I think my experiences will help you understand how not to become a failure. So the whole context of this talk today is to tell you about the pitfalls that a budding startup faces, and I hope and pray that you can maneuver your startup around these pitfalls and actually become successful. So I wish all of you aspiring entrepreneurs and innovators who have come on this talk today, I wish you all the best. And I would just, sir has already given quite a lot of brief about what Sevarat is. So Sevarat, like you already know, was started in 2015, and we are Goa's first ever, and practically till date, we are the only dedicated senior care service located in Goa. We have been providing home care and home nursing and several other services for the elderly. By doing this, we have today got a team of people who go to the residences of elderly people who are either lonely, who are ailing, or who are terminally ill, and look after their needs and care for them. And make the last few days, weeks, months of their life a pleasant experience. My team and I are dedicated to do these ordinary tasks with extraordinary love. Without talking much more about Sevarat, let me just quickly go to the content of today's talk. So, when you talk about startups, the first thing that comes, yeah, and if media recognition was anything to call us successful, then I think we've made quite a mark for ourselves in the last 5 years. The media in Goa has been very kind to us, and we've been covered extensively. So, this is the only it's the only reflection which makes me proud that my team and I have been doing something right over these last 5 years. So I'll quickly go to the content of the talk today. When we talk about startups, what is the first thing that we think of? We think that we need to have a brilliant idea first. The idea is the beginning of a startup. But what really is the idea? How do we come to the idea? So I think one step before the idea is something which we all tend to miss, is a problem. First, we need to identify what is the problem. Having gotten the problem, then we understand the problem, and then we figure out what could possibly be the solution to this problem. And as in how we progress and we try, it's like a lock which has no key. So you try different options, and then finally you come to this one key which actually works, and that ends up becoming your solution. So with Sevarat, when I started Sevarat, you won't believe me, but I had absolutely no idea. Sevarat did not come from an idea at all. Sevarat came from a problem. My mother was ill and I was in a sabbatical, so I was the one who was running up and down and looking after her whenever she landed up in hospital. Coming back to Goa, I kept wondering what would we have done had I continued to be working. As you have just heard, I've had a very engaging career. I was in the telecom industry, and I thought, what if I was still working? What could I have done, or what would my family have done? How would we have dealt with this problem? And the more I looked at this, I realized that, oh my God, this is a very big problem. There are working professionals all over the place who would like their parents to be looked after, and they don't quite have the ability to do it themselves. Coming from the telecom industry, I thought we should just have a very smart application which will cater to all their needs. It should be a one stop shop for all solutions. Like, we were trying different keys. But somewhere down the line, when I defined the problem, it is very important to define the problem. The problem was that professionals, working professionals, people who were unable to be with their parents in their old age, wanted someone to care for their parents the way they cared for their parents. So the solution would perhaps not be a technology solution. Technology could indeed be an enabler, but the solution had to be a human resource. So once we had defined the problem, the solution was only evident, which is why today Sevarat, I think, provides the second best care any elderly person can receive at home. The first being the children themselves, giving them their time and attention. So this is the basic stepping stone of starting a startup. But I think there is more to this. Having an idea, having a problem, and a brilliant solution to the problem is not the beginning, or maybe just the beginning of a startup. What is actually key to becoming a success is to stick on to that idea and make it work in the long run. You will constantly face opposition, you will constantly face challenges, you will constantly face defeat and even failure. But the key is when you have a brilliant idea, when you know the exact problem, when you have a solution which is going to solve that problem, the key to a successful startup is to stick on to it, to hold on to it, to be perseverant no matter what. There are only two ways when this is possible. One is when the cause itself is so important that it doesn't allow you to give up. In my case, I would just I have no better words to tell you this, but to say that I was pushed to giving up ever so often. There have been innumerable occasions when I just wanted to give it up, hang it, and just go back to my old career, because the challenges of being a startup and dealing with so many issues is just unnerving beyond a certain point. But then when you look around and you see that you are responsible for the life, the happiness of so many individuals, we're looking after so many elderly people, their families are dependent on us. I have so many employees, their lives and livelihoods are dependent on us. There is no way I can back off now. I mean, there's a no go situation for me. I cannot shut down Sevarat at all. That's not an option at all. And the other way to do it is when I was considering entrepreneurship and I was still in Bombay, a very accomplished person suggested this to me. He said, Rohini, if you want to become an entrepreneur, then remember that you need to give up this Adi Roti Ki Naukri which you are doing right now. What he meant to say is that so long as we are attached to a certain job, and I have no problems with people who are multitasking, they're doing a job and they're still pursuing a business that may be working for them. However, this advice worked in good stead for me because he told me that, unless you give up your job, you will never quite be dedicated to the next enterprise that you are going to set up. So either your cause or your situation should be such that it won't let you give up, no matter how tough it gets, or no matter whoever pushes you to quit. You gotta keep going on. And that, according to me, is the golden rule number one of becoming successful. Rule number one, stick it out. The second cornerstone of any enterprise's success, particularly a startup's success, is the team. What do you mean when we say team? Do we mean just the stakeholders, the people who have invested in your organization, your co-founders, the partners that you have, etc.? Do you mean the vendors who provide you your raw material, people who help you, your distributors maybe, all of those people? Does it mean your financiers, your bankers, the institutions which support you, or does it mean your employees? It means all of these and more. As a business, it takes all kinds of people whose support you need to become successful. Having them is one part of the story, but managing them is quite another part of the story. So, from my experience with Sevarat, and I'll give you some instances, it is very important to understand each one of these demographics that we're dealing with. The interest of the stakeholder is very different than the interest of the vendor or that of the banker or that of the employee or of any other party that you are dealing with on an ongoing basis. It is very important as an entrepreneur, as a person, as a boss there, it is very important for you to know distinctly how to hold a conversation or how to hold a relationship with that set of people. I'll give you an example. Now, I have come from a very corporate background, and here I came and I was handling people who were, who came from very remote villages as my employees. So I'm talking about my employees now. So my employees came from remote parts of the country. Most of them were tribal. Some of them had, actually boarded a train for the first time in their lives. They have had no idea of how corporates work or how an organization works or how to work in a more formal environment, for example. And here I was expecting them to understand KRAs. I was expecting them to understand, the promise of a future. I was trying to explain to them growth prospects and stuff like that. 5 years later, today, I know that those things mean French to them. Today, what they understand is just two things. They understand that they get a livelihood and they understand that they get money. When I'm saying livelihood, it is basically roti, kapda, makan. And when I'm saying money, it means that they have some jama punji, which they keep in the bank or they send back home, etc. Employees understand only that language. Employees do not understand savings. Employees do not understand PF and ESI. They don't understand all those things. My employees don't. But it took me a very long circle, of communication and going back and forth. And that is when I figured out that, those things which appear very tempting to any other individual, there would be so many qualified people who would give a lifetime to come to an organization where there's job security, where you have PF and ESI, and they would want to be in a very nice, polished organization. But I realized that this segment of people don't quite get it. And I was wasting my time, so to say, to make them make the grass eat in that. I'm sorry, the horse eat grass, that kind of a thing. Unless and until they are inclined towards it, we cannot force them to do anything. The other set of people that I have dealt with is a certain institution. It is a semi-government organization which had promised to give us some financial assistance. And you won't believe me, when we go to ask money from anybody, they don't treat you in the best of ways most of the times. So here I was going and being very polite, and every time I went and I requested them, and I said, "Why won't you do this for me? And whatever it is you require, I'm giving you documents, I'm giving you project plans, I'm giving you business projections, I'm doing all of that stuff, I'm doing all the paperwork." And every time I would go, and around that time there were other circumstances also. Goa was going through so many, one election after the other, and there was some kind of the other code of conduct applicable around that time. Therefore, the matter was getting prolonged, and sometimes I felt that there was unnecessary delays from their end also. But one of the things you learn to do is to be patient with people and wait for the right time for things to happen. But one fine day, when I just I mean somebody just tipped me off, and I just couldn't stand it any longer. So I just called up one of those people at the office, and I actually scolded him. I actually fought with him, and I was very rude to him. And I told him, I threatened him. I said, if you don't do this now, then you've had it. Okay, I'm just going to go, and I'm going to make sure that you answer for this. And whether the CM has to answer for this or the PM has to answer for this, they gotta answer for this. And I'm not going to sit quiet now. You have no idea, within the next 4 days everything seemed to work, and all the papers moved and everything happened. And I realized, had I known that I had to only do this, like get wild and scream at them one fine day, I think my work would have just got done long back. But I did not understand that perseverance, pursuing things with certain people who are mostly people who are working in desk jobs where they just forward files or rather keep files and sit on them, is to also show some power. So maybe as an entrepreneur, it's not always about being submissive and just putting up with things. It is also important sometimes to assert and to force them to do the things that they ought to. Now, when it comes to vendors, earlier I was the kind of person who believed in making payments the minute the work was done. The work is done here, take your payment. The work is done here, take your payment. While it's a brilliant thing to do and it's a very professional action, it's wonderful to do that. But at the same time, there is no reason for him to be attached to you. He just it becomes a transactional relationship. It doesn't become a long-term relationship. When I started taking things on credit, my vendors started treating me with far more dignity. They started listening to my instructions far more than they did earlier. And I don't know why this happens. I think in my earlier paradigm of thinking, I was thinking that if I give them their money on time, they will treat me in a very nice way, and they will listen to all my instructions, and they will follow whatever I tell them to do. But that did not work. The minute they had their money stuck with me, they started treating me like God. So I think it was just a learning curve for me. And finally, when it comes to stakeholders, your stakeholders don't give a damn about what you are dealing with. At the end of the day, what they are interested in is, where is this organization headed? If you aren't making profits, or if they do not see the promise of a profit in the near future, they pretty much are going to check out of your business. So all the time, the only focus, you cannot go ranting to them, you cannot tell them your poor circumstances, you cannot tell them who fell ill, you cannot give them any excuses. The only thing you need to tell them is the results. So if you're going to talk to your stakeholder and tell them sorry stories about having code of conduct or having having COVID now, for example, that is not going to be a good enough excuse. You have to understand that your stakeholders are only interested in results. So my suggestion to anybody who's planning to start up a venture is to understand that every person needs to be addressed in a certain way, dealt with in a certain way, and you need to understand how to do that. One of the key is to be able to absorb, to learn, to process, and then to improve and keep going at it. You cannot use a one shoe fits all approach anytime. So the golden rule number 2 is keep your ear to the ground. Know what is going to work and just do that. Don't keep it in very theoretical things, because theoretical things may not always be true. That's my golden rule number 2. as an entrepreneur and somebody who's like me, who's a first generation entrepreneur, and this is my first venture, and I have never been on my own, So mentors play a very important role. I needed mentors for my human resources. In the beginning, I did not even know how to manage human resources because I came from a marketing background. And here I was only dealing with human resources. I was dealing with people of head of organization level people, and I was dealing with people who were generally MBAs and stuff like that. Here I was talking to people who were barely, most of them were school dropouts or they barely passed their 10th and their 12th. And, they were a different demographics altogether. I didn't know how to deal with them. I didn't know what fascinated them, what motivated them. I didn't know anything. I needed a human resource mentor to help me about that. Now, I hired a person who was highly experienced, who had 35 years of HR experience. And my HR person actually hired for me a consultant based in Delhi who obviously would have known the how abouts of the business. Now, somewhere down the line, I don't know what the whole mess up was, but then between them and me, we somehow never had that communication completion. And at the end of the day, it so happened that there were so many miscalculations in the way our HR allowances were being paid that our organization has incurred tremendous costs in the form of PF and ESI beyond our means. I had to borrow money and pay those PF and ESIs, which could have been very logically, very ethically managed in the right way. But thanks to a bunch of wrong decisions, and here I have actually faced my biggest pitfall as far as bringing our organization to break-even point. We went back 1.5 years only because of the mess up on our human resource management. So this is one of the bad experiences I had. Then comes the financial advisors. There is nothing in a business more important than financial management. And I was associated with a brilliant chartered accountant who helped me file my returns. And the only advice I really got from him was that your income has to be greater than your expenses. And he never quite helped me how to make my income more than my expenses or how to make my expenses less than my income. And at the end of the day, at the end of every year, he just gave me one line of advice. You need to make sure your income is more than your expenses. But that is not why we have a financial advisor. We need a financial advisor who will help us every single day, who will understand our business, who will get the pulse of what we do. Without that, without being participating in our business, it is absolutely unlikely for somebody to sit there much educated and accomplished as they may be, but they cannot tell you what to do right without understanding what you actually do. So your financial advisors are very key to helping you increase your profits, decrease your costs, and manage your business all the time. The other part is the compliance. As an organization which is faced with multiple facets, multiple departments, I don't know what startups you plan to start, but mine being essentially an HR related organization, there are several compliances on the human resources front, on the labor laws and so on and so forth. Sometimes we, as lay people, we think we are doing the right thing. Ever since the first day, we have been paying far above the minimum wages, in fact, far above the minimum wages. At the same time, in spite of that, when you look at it the way the government looks at it or the way the rule book goes, they don't get it. They need it in a certain format. They need it to be described to them in a certain way, and only then it is compliant. So much as we think we are doing the right thing without having an actual perspective of whether it is the right thing or not, you are surely going to get into trouble. And that trouble could mean any amount of trouble. That could even mean having legal complications. You could have a suit against you. You could land up in jail. So compliance for whatever department or whatever authority, whatever license you need to have, make sure that you have a good mentor to help you with those. Legal, extremely vital to any business. Our businesses are multifaceted today. We need to have agreements with everybody right from our vendors to our customers to our employees, and these have to be legally compliant. Now, when we talk about legal stuff, I'll just give you an instance. Recently, we keep our staff in rented accommodation, and we have a rent agreement which had expired in the month of April 2021. Now, because we were still in the middle of a lockdown, the landlady asked me to continue and said that we will renew the agreement later. But then we had some altercation a few weeks back, which is in the first week of July, and you have no idea they did a lot of foul play, and although we went to the police could not protect us because the agreement had expired. Much as we had done all the right things, they were on the wrong side of the law, but simply because we did not have a legal paper in our favor, we couldn't fight for our rights. So it is very important to have legal compliance. To be on the right side of the law, you need to have a very good legal mentor. And finally, you need to have somebody who will help you with the jugaad. There is nothing that happens in our country without the jugaad. You need to have the right person you can reach out. There could be any kind of calamity, there could be any kind of disaster, there could be any kind of breakdown, and you cannot quite perceive what is going to be the next big distress that you are going to face in a business. You have no idea. It could be anything. And everybody's business is different, and I don't know what your business is going to be, but in my business it is about human resources, it is about traffic compliances, it is about safety, it is about health, it is about alcoholism, it is about affairs, it is about so many things. We need to have somebody who advises me. I needed to have somebody to advise me how to handle all these situations. Some of those situations are just like making a call. Some of the situations are just about, using the right person to make that call. So whatever that situation is, it is very important to have the right kind of mentors. My golden rule to you, the golden rule number 3 is whenever you're using a mentor, first test that mentor. Test that mentor. Test that mentor. Make sure that that person is giving you the right kind of advice. Sometimes people that we have hired, like I told you in my HR, so the people that you have taken on as mentors themselves are not enough, or they are not skilled enough to help you in your situations. So test the waters before you gather the pearls. You will find pearls. You will find amazing people who will help you out. Today we have a fantastic financial advisor. We have a very good team who's helping us with our compliance. We have a couple of lawyers who are helping us on different facets of our business, and we have enough people to guard. So, which is why today we can say that we are ready to take on our business. So it is very important to test each one of them, and on the basis of merit alone, you will earn these pearls. Yeah. Finally, perform. No matter what business you start, no matter whatever your product is, whatever your solution is, your offering has to deliver the promise you have promised them, the value you have promised them. Your product may be inexpensive or it may be exorbitantly priced, but if it doesn't serve its purpose, no one is going to continue to pay for it. You have to watch the market, and you will understand from the market whether your product or your service or your solution is performing. Now, what is the meaning of performance? First of all, you have to deliver value. In my business, if my staff goes to a customer and they are unable to lift the patient, my service fails. So when I am hiring resources, when I'm taking on somebody, I make sure that they are mentally, physically, and emotionally prepared to do the task of lifting a patient. Sometimes people have to be lifted from a bed and put into a chair single-handedly. Are they able to do that? If they're not able to do that, then my service fails. Are they people who can keep awake if they're doing a night shift? They have to keep awake throughout the night. If they're not going to keep awake and watch out for the patient, then my service fails. So at every single point, we need to watch out that we are delivering value to our customers. That is the rule number 1 for your performance. Second thing is the market keeps on evolving. The needs keep on evolving. We need to keep on changing things. We need to evolve. We may have chosen SOPs, we may have put in processes, we may have done so many things which we thought were right, which will work in the long run. But as and how circumstances change, we need to really look at it and keep innovating and keep evolving, whether it's our product or it is our service or the value that we deliver. That is a very critical part of performance. Ultimately, irrespective of whatever they are consuming, whether it is, suppose you were to sell food, for example, your food might be delicious, but the way it is served is not a very pleasant experience, then the customer is not quite going to come and eat it again. With Sevarat, while we had made sure that all of our staff was carefully handpicked and they were well trained, and the customer experience of professionalism comes from the fact that my staff is always in uniform. They're always in uniform. The very first time they look at a person, they know that this person comes from a professional agency. The customer experience is that of professionalism the minute they see the staff. The second thing is the way we deal with our customers. We are constantly with them. They're dealing with so much already because their elder parents are many of them are counting the last days of their lives. It is a very challenging, emotionally draining kind of a period for the family. And at that time, what we offer is also a lot of emotional support. So during that entire ordeal of dealing with a family member's illness, they feel that the Sevarat team is with them. We are one with them. And that customer experience is what has taken us this far. The next thing is contribution. Irrespective of whatever your product, whatever your solution, whatever your service is, somewhere at some level it has to contribute to society. It may be a very trendy product, it might be something on technology, it might be something on consumables, it might be anything whatsoever. At the end of it, if it is not contributing to people's lives and happiness, it is going to fail. Anything which is disastrous is not going to work. In the long run, it will not work. So whenever we are performing, whenever we have created our startup, a constant meter of are we contributing to people's lives. I have had the unfortunate privilege, I would call it an unfortunate privilege, to be a part of people's lives on the very last day of their parents' lives, So we have been there with them when they have lost their parents. And we have held their hands when they have lost their parents. That moment, that sense of contribution that it gives to us is tremendous. It is so fulfilling that we could comfort them in their highest grief and the deepest sorrows. That is what is so fulfilling for us at Sevarat. So contribution is a very key to performance. And the most important part of performance is integrity. When we talk about value, it also means about your own values. Now with Sevarat, we have all kinds of contingencies. There are times when we've seen that staff was appointed to a certain customer. They are not capable of doing that job because we only can estimate that what the situation is going to be there. And that situation is something which was not what we had perceived. And the person may not have been the right fit for that job. And we haven't been able to serve that customer. The customer always pays us in advance, and it is so easy for us to take the money and say, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry that person did not do that job right. I will give you an alternative person tomorrow. So our customers would not quite complain if we would charge them for that day. But we have a very strict policy of all or nothing. The day we feel that we have not served enough, we do not charge the customer a penny. It may not be very sensible in terms of financial management, but I have seen that over time, that is what has won us a lot of loyalty from our customers. They know for a fact that we will not overcharge them. They know for a fact that we will not cheat them ever. And they know that we will not do anything unworthy. So even if we hear a complaint about a certain person who was sleeping on shift, that day we do not charge them. No questions asked. See, our customers today are such people, they say, oh, this person did not do an enough.
Guya, Dillo,
Sorry. So coming back to integrity. So sometimes it so happens that customers themselves say that no, you have to charge us, but we don't. I'll give you one instance. Recently, on the 19th of June, we had a new joinee, and on the 21st of June, we had a customer inquiry. Now, the customer insisted that we should get an RT-PCR test done for this gentleman. He was a new joinee, and I told the customer that he's newly joined us. We haven't trained him fully, but at that time, the need was so urgent that she actually was willing to go about it. The only condition she had was that he should undergo an RT-PCR test. I was extremely confident that he did not need to go through an RT-PCR test because on the 19th itself, we had already done a test, and his test was negative. And this was on the 21st. So I just told her, I said, see, he's just done a test on the 19th and he's come in clean. So you might as well just start. And she said, no, I just want to be absolutely sure. So we should go through the RT-PCR test. And much as I hated this conclusion finally, that he turned out to be positive on RT-PCR. And then we obviously did not serve that customer, but and we took him, we put him into quarantine and we took care of him. So that was another story. Now the customer sends me a message saying that since I had insisted on the RT-PCR test, I would like to pay. And I told her, since we haven't served you, there is no need for you to pay because it is our liability, it's not your liability. And just that one sentence, that money would have been hardly about 2,500 rupees. And that just was a kind of, we did not earn anything out of that investment. But the confidence that the person has in us is something that has led her to recommend us to so many of our other friends that even during COVID times, these are the people you can rely on. So integrity is a non-negotiable value. When it comes to performance, anything that you do has to be inside of your integrity. So the golden rule now here is perform or perish. If you do not deliver value, sooner or later, you are going to end up closing shop. And then the most important part of business is to be in profit. If your business is not earning or does not have the potential to earn you monetary gains, it isn't a business in the first place. And I know this firsthand because a lot of people think that because we are a social enterprise of a charity, but we are not a charity organization. We are a business firm. We are here. We are a profit-making business firm. Many times people want to offer me, products like, for example, there is a patient who has passed away and they want to give me the bed and they want to say, Rohini, why don't you use it? And I tell them, I would love to take it from you. But the thing is, we are a for-profit organization. We are a not-for-profit organization. And so why don't you just donate it to some old age home which actually needs it? People understand that we are a for-profit organization. But there are other enterprises also who are, for example, you could have a store, you could have anything else. So long as you are making a profit, you can call yourself a business. When you do not make a profit or do not have the potential to make a profit, then something is wrong. That means it is not a business, it is a charity. And if you want to be in a startup for charity, then I think this lecture is not for you. Okay, so now how do you make profits? The first key factor is pricing. When we started Save Bharat, which is about 5 years back, for a day shift of 10 hours, we used to charge customers 400 rupees. And I wasn't making profits at all. I was not even scraping through my costs. And invariably, I would end up putting money from my savings and I would end up borrowing money. And this was going on for over a year. I ended up in an office of a again semi-government organization, and the officer there who was advising me suddenly asked me, he said, you should be having unit economics. How come you're not making profits? And I said, I don't know. I just have costs. My costs are very high, and I'm not able to manage. So he said, what is your pricing? And when I told him it is 400 rupees, he said, Rohini, are you out of your mind? Have you ever gone to the Panjim market and seen the labor there? The labor who's on daily wages takes at least 500 to 600 rupees for 3 to 4 hours of work. And you are providing professional healthcare services at 400 rupees for a 10-hour shift. You are certainly not going to make profits. I think you seriously need to relook at your costing. And that was my first alarm when I just looked at the costing. And soon after, when we analyzed the problem, we realized and we revised our costing from 400, we went to 700, and customers were willing to pay. So the pricing is a very key element. There is another aspect of pricing. Sometimes the costs are not just financial costs, there are also other costs which are like management costs. And many times when we have products priced at a certain level, it also becomes a market segmentation tool, which is when we decided, coming from a marketing bent of mind, we decided that the pricing should be such that we're targeting a certain target segment, and which is why our pricing is slightly higher than most other services and most other service providers out here in Goa. And that helps us only cater to a certain segment of the market where we are focused on. So currently we are serving most of our customers who are parents of non-resident Indians and people who are working outside of Goa, and they need professional care. They understand the meaning of professional care, and they do not treat healthcare workers like regular maids and to do the household chores. So pricing became a very important factor for us in order to get our profitability right. The second aspect obviously is cost management, like our very valued CA would advise us that your costs should be lower than your income. So it is very important to watch out on what we are spending. Like I mentioned earlier, our HR expenses, our PF and ESI, the costs that we incurred was so huge that we had to undergo a huge deficit in our funds. We had to borrow money and at interests, and that really took us down. It clearly took us back about a year and a half in our break even. So, cost management is a very important aspect. One of the other things is whenever we are, reinvesting, we started with some projects. We started trying to implement some technology, and as a part of that, we invested some money there, but we did not project it adequately. I did not project it adequately. So what happened was, I did not realize that this is going to be an ongoing cost and not going to be of course. And when we invested that money, we realized that we did not have enough money to take it to the next level. And so whatever money we had reinvested into the business in the form of technology has practically got wasted over there, or rather it's just stuck over there, it's stuck capital. So when we are looking at profit, we also need to, when we see profit, we need profit in the hand. It is cash in the hand. It is not cash stuck in a reinvestment or cash stuck elsewhere. It is not that. The one of the most critical things in business is to be prepared for contingencies. What if? And the what if is enormous, it's endless, it's infinite, if I may call it that. None of us were prepared for COVID. None of us were prepared for the kind of impact that it has had on our businesses. I have also suffered, but not suffered as much as so many other organizations and startups have suffered. But one of the contingencies that we had to face is for the longest period, we had to look after our staff without being able to earn while our business was running. Our business was running only on 1/3 of our employees, and the rest of the 2/3 of the employees were just sitting on bench, and we were paying them salaries and we were paying them food and accommodation, which was a huge cost to the organization. When we are talking about profits, our profits, these kind of contingencies eat from your profits. But we have to provision for these kind of contingencies, these and any kind of contingencies. So when we're looking at profit, we're not just looking the difference between your income and your expenses, or your pricing and your costs. We're also looking at reinvesting a part of it for betterment of the business and saving a part of it for contingencies, unforeseeable contingencies of the future. Right? So the next rule and the fifth rule of the 5 golden rules is be penny wise, not pound foolish, but be penny wise. Every penny, count it before you spend it. In your personal life, you may be somebody who can just go into a shopping mall and just pick up stuff and just get it billed and walk out. But when it comes to your business, be penny wise. Every single penny, you have to think, do I really need to spend this? Do I need to spend it now? And do I need to spend it in this way? If you can answer these questions, I can assure you that you will actually be so prudent when you're spending your money that automatically you will look at profitability. So these are the 5 golden rules of having a successful startup. I would summarize. This is practically my last slide. And so the 5 P's of success are: firstly, perseverance. When you know that you have started a venture, please don't give up. No matter how tough it gets, no matter how disgusting it gets, no matter how unnerving it gets, it might just be very, very difficult for you to handle it emotionally, but please persevere, because today, if say Bharat is being called a success, one of the primary reasons is, and practically the only reason is, because we have just stood on. We've just been doing what we were doing all along for 5 years. So now we have been called a success, not that we have gone and we have achieved great feats. We've just been called successful because we've been here for 5 years. So perseverance is very important. Performance. If you don't perform, you will perish. So your business will not hold at all. You have to perform. You have to make profits. If you don't make profits, then again you will perish. You need to be patient. Circumstances will change. Things will change. Unforeseen events will happen. Sometimes there's a storm approaching and you cannot do anything about it. The only thing you can do is just float. The storm will come and the storm will go. You float. You don't try to swim. You don't try to swim against the tide. You don't do anything. You just float. So patience is about floating in those times when you don't know what to do. And finally, prayer. I don't think I would have been successful today without the prayers that I have offered, my family has offered, all the people who are rooting for me have offered. I think the prayers of family, friends, and yourself are very important. This just helps you stay on put. And without the grace of God Almighty, the Creator, whoever you believe in, whichever God or divinity you believe in, without prayer, I think there is very little that we can accomplish, because there is a different master of this universe. And surrendering to God actually has made my journey so fascinating. Sometimes there are miracles happening, not sometimes, actually ever so often there are miracles happening every single day, and I'm just overwhelmed, and I keep wondering, do you really love me so much, God, that all these wonderful things keep happening with me? I just don't know. He protects us, he takes care of us, and he provides for us. And just spending some time in prayer every day and offering all your work to God will really give you a lot of peace of mind, will help you focus on the right things and take out all the negativity from your life. It will really help you take out all the negativity from your life. So the final golden rule is go on your knees and pray every single day, good times, bad times, just pray, and I'm sure that you will be successful. Thank you once again for having me here, and I am open now to take all your questions if any. I'm just closing this screen now, and I'm going back to my meet.
Yes.
Hello, madam. I'm Bhaskar Sundararajan here.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask the question here. It was a very nice talk, ma'am. In fact, the last one was very fantastic. The prayer part, I like to every point which you made about it. The last very touching part is that you're doing fantastic work. At the same time, the prayer part which mentioned it, which is amazing, ma'am. Thank you very much for the wonderful talk. The question I'd like to ask is that how do you start with the profit making it is? How does one decide how much profit should I make it to stay in the business?
How much profit they make to stay in the business?
Yes, and I to decide, right, how much profit I get at the end of a day. Where profit is not substantial, which could take care of my requirements at all, I don't want in business at all.
Yes.
Right, ma'am? So yes. I need to have certain amount of profit here to pay for the salary for the employees, to take care of myself. At the end of a day, the profit should be substantial.
So there are two things which I understand from your question. First is, whatever is your pricing has to take care of your costs plus. Your pricing has to be your cost plus. That plus has to be, it has to take care of your costing, it has to take care of your reinvestment, it has to take care of your contingencies. What is left beyond that is what we consider as profit.
Any formula, ma'am? Any formula, madam, there to come out with?
I don't think so. I mean, greed doesn't have a formula. Profits is about greed, right? It's
Yes.
also correlated to greed. So if you want to be very greedy, then you can just price it exorbitantly. See, at some point in time, like for example, I will go back to my example. I was charging 400 rupees. I had a certain segment of customers that I was serving. When I came to 700 rupees, there's a certain smaller segment of customers I can serve. When I've come to 1100, it's even smaller segment of people. Ultimately, there will be very few people. If I keep on increasing my costs, then there will be nobody will be willing to pay that amount. So there has to be a balance between costing and pricing. So if my prices keep on increasing and my costing goes down, then my profitability will increase. But how far can I increase my costing? My pricing. That is the most important key. So at one point in time, the market will stabilize what your pricing can be, and that is when you will learn to bring your costs down, and that is where you will come up with your profit. At the same time, if you're just going to use like I want to earn say 10,000 rupees this month. So how much do I charge? So I think that 10,000 rupees is something that you will be deciding, not I. So every entrepreneur has to decide that for himself. There won't be a certain standard rule for all.
My second question, ma'am, is that how that employee management, the employees have to be motivated all the time. Given the nature of the work that you are doing it,
yes,
it's not that simple to get employees motivated all the time in a good job and of it. How does one handle that kind of situation? But there are a lot of contingencies that you face the customers day to day, and keeping the employees happy and it's not a easy job that you. Very kind of compassionate, because they have to be compassionate in all aspects, of have a lot of patience to deal with. How does one deal with that?
So I don't know how other people deal with it. As far as I'm concerned, I just believe that if I want my staff to be loving and compassionate towards my customers, then they need to see that in me. So if I'm not going to be loving and compassionate towards them, then there is absolutely no chance of them being loving and compassionate towards anybody else. They are going to be a reflection of what we are towards them. So when it comes to our staff are held like this. We don't treat them like you are our employees, you are our workers. We don't treat them like laborers. We don't do that. We treat them like very respected individuals. We give them great dignity. We have a lot of motivation for them. But just simply from the job that they do. The job that they do itself is such a contribution to society, and they are constantly aware of that. They're constantly aware of that. And that is what has, I think, made a lot of difference to my staff's satisfaction at job. Of course, the earnings are very, very, the most important factor being the earnings. We pay them well. We make sure that we pay them on time. We don't give them any opportunity. You won't believe me, month on month, I ask my staff, what according to you is your salary calculation this month? And invariably, the salary that they're receiving is more than that salary. Sorry, there was some disturbance. So, Bhaskar sir, the thing what I was saying is firstly compassion from our side, salary, and the third aspect is that we have very periodic trainings, etc., which also keep them compassionate, which keep them grounded into the principles of our job.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Fantastic. It was. I love this talk very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Meghnath, you have a question. Dr. Meghnath? Yes, you can speak. Meghnath,
that's okay. Yeah, I'm reading. Meanwhile, if somebody else wants to ask, they can ask, and I can read this query and answer him sooner. Okay, so Meghnath is asking, what are the government schemes available in this business, right? So there is nothing quite there is nothing quite kind of focused on healthcare, because actually if you see, home healthcare is a sector which has not been defined at all in the startup policies, etc. Healthcare generally is, but mostly from a technology point of view, but home healthcare from a service provider point of view has not been covered extensively in the Startup India and the Stand Up India policies. But having said that, yes, we have received a lot of support from the government. I'll tell you about two fantastic things which have happened with Sevarat. We were incubating when we started off. We were incubating with SIBA, which is Center for Innovation and Business Acceleration, which is based in Verna, and they also have a branch in Asagam. So we were incubating with them, and as a part of being one of their startups, we received seed funding to the tune of 10 lakhs from them. This happened in the year 2016. 17. That's when we formed the company. And recently, last year, we received again seed funding from the government of Goa as a part of the Startup India Goa initiative. That was again 10 lakh rupees. As seed fund, plus we were also eligible for another scheme, which was an interest reimbursement scheme. So we have bank loans which we have taken, and the government reimburses that interest. I think the government of Goa has got fantastic bunch of schemes. They have a fantastic startup policy. You must go to the government of Goa website and check out the schemes and really apply to those schemes. These are government schemes, so they have bureaucratic challenges sometimes, they have certain process challenges sometimes, but having said that, they have the intent and they are doing their bit as far as this is concerned. It's a little slow because of COVID right now, but otherwise at least they have the intent to support startups. I hope I've answered your question, Mr. Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Am I audible, Dr. Duri?
Yes, you are audible, sir. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Rohini, for a very nice presentation.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you all conduct any regular programs for your staff? Because
yes. Yes, sir. Please continue.
Yeah. Regular training programs for your staff.
Yes, actually we do. We have at least 3 trainings every month, okay, for our staff. Some of them are just activities just to keep them engaged. Some of them are activities, some of them are training programs which help them from a personality point of view. And some of them are very work related, which will help them do their jobs better. So we balance it out and we give them everything. In fact, we have a presentation, we have a training tomorrow, which is about investing, because all of my staff earn a lot of salaries and all of that money, they practically have zero expenses here in Goa because we look after everything. Now, all that money which they have, they end up sending it to their hometowns and their family is just, kind of using it or wasting it. It's not getting invested for their future. So what we have organized is we've organized a talk which will help them understand how mutual funds work, how investing works, how insurance works, and then see that, they actually start investing the money that they earn for their future. So I keep telling them that your money needs to earn you money and not just you need to earn money. So I keep telling them this, and we keep empowering them with all these kind of trainings often.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, Rohini ma'am, I would like to ask you one question.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, Mr. Murthy.
Yeah, I really appreciate your presentation, the work and all those things. And I would like to ask you one thing: when the situations are unexpected, like the Corona times, the population there is high demand of your services.
Yes.
But regarding about your employment, how you will manage those type of situations? If you recruit at that time, how you will manage? How you gonna manage the employees after the Corona situation when you don't have that much demand in the market? How you gonna treat the employees? I think there is an ambiguity here, right? You cannot predict this. You cannot predict the situations, how it's gonna happen in the future, and it's a really ambiguity. I feel like that. I felt like there is ambiguity like these services, and I dropped a few of my ideas. So how did you cope up with this situation? I would like to know that.
Surely, sir. Well, firstly, Corona took us all by surprise. We were also pretty much. We were also pretty much shaken off our roots. What had happened, there was a very interesting facet of what we went through. In fact, one of my most unpleasant experiences happened during the corona period. Like I keep telling you, we need to understand the demographics. So my final lesson, the latest lesson I have learned in demographics was during the corona pandemic challenge. So what happened was we had hired a lot of human resources between December 2020 to March 2021. I'm sorry, December 2019 to March 2020. And the last batch which had arrived here on the 18th of March 2020. And as you all know, we went into lockdown soon after that on the 21st. So these people who had come, they had not even been trained for the job. And then we were in lockdown, so we couldn't complete the training. So right until the 5th of May, rather, 4th or 5th of May, till we opened up the lockdown in Goa state, like I said, 2/3 of my employees who were all these newly joined people who had not been trained, people who were not yet. I don't send my staff to my customers' houses until and unless I'm fully confident that they can handle the situation. So a lot of those people who were semi-trained, they were all there at home and we were looking after them. And the only thing I had assured them was stay put. We will look after you. We will take care of you. I don't know which way this is going to go, but you will be safe here. That is the only assurance I'd given them. I said, I have no idea what this is. I have no idea how long this is going to last. But whatever it is, we will look after you. As luck would have it, during that time, soon after the lockdown opened, meanwhile, all that chaos had begun about migrant laborers walking all the way back home, and all of that nonsense had started across the country. There were a lot of vested interests at play back home in their hometowns because there were elections which were due. So a lot of those people wanted these were all their electorate, they wanted them back in their towns. So they also played a lot of vicious games to the extent my staff who was residing with me and was very well looked after created a video saying that, raising allegations saying that we are not looking after them and they're not being fed and they don't have a place to go to, and they posted it on social media. And then the government of Jharkhand got in touch with the government of Goa, and then while I received tremendous support from the government of Goa and the labor department here, but this entire game took such a toll on us emotionally that we were just not prepared for this. So about 14 of them decided to go back, but they did all of this in order to go back. So, if you ask me how Corona has panned out for us, I think after that episode, we realized that we have to only be cautious and take only those people who are absolutely confident that they would want to stay here and perform here no matter what the situation came. If we were going to go into another lockdown, they would have to stay with us and not, cry foul and go home. So we were very, very cautious. We haven't hired anybody during the Corona pandemic, but soon after the pandemic ended, we have started hiring again and people have joined us. So I can't say that we kind of grabbed the opportunity by its horns. We did not do that with Corona, but we have been consistently delivering and consistently growing. There's been no spurt of sorts. If I've answered you.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about the cost perspective. I mean, you're saying about your services. That's really a wonderful thing. Yeah, the way you handled the situation. But I'm thinking, okay, now the Corona has ended. I hope so, or definitely it will end one day. And after the ending of that, then what about this employment? It will be like a cost burden for you. So how are you going to manage this thing?
It won't. Business is ever expanding. No, it won't. If I have the manpower, then I can go and explore another geography. I don't need to be stuck in Goa alone. If I have the manpower, I can go to Bombay.
Yeah.
I can go anywhere else in the country. We will grow as an organization. We will never terminate our people. Irrespective of however many people we have on board, we will not terminate anybody.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that answer. Yeah.
Thank you,
growing
sir.
company. Yeah, that's
Yes, we are a growing organization.
Yes, any more queries from the participants? Yeah, if there are no more questions, just ma'am, I have one, just a small clarification.
Yes.
It is a continuation to the earlier question asked by the participant. When, what was the impact of this pandemic? 1.5 year almost we are now approaching. So what is the impact of this pandemic on your what you call your profit? I mean, it hampered your business, or it was sort of okay. I mean, it was like a regular.
Actually, I can't I can't say this in better words, but the corona pandemic has been a blessing for us, not just because our demand increased. In fact, it hasn't increased because we are serving senior citizens, and our senior citizens were not affected by corona as much as the normal other people were affected, because most senior citizens are homebound. So while that did not happen, one of the biggest blessings for me was the fact that this episode happened with my staff, acting very differently, unexpectedly. So we looked at what was the conversation we were having with our staff. And then I realized that, if they are going to be employees, then they're going to look at it just like employees. We then moved, our complete model changed. So now our employees are not just our employees, they are our associates. And we don't no longer pay them salaries. We started paying them professional fees. That entire paradigm changed. So now they're not working for me, they're working for themselves. So the entire economics of my business changed. We have saved more money. We have seen better unit economics. We've been able to repay a lot of our liabilities because we managed this very well. And this lesson, it may have been a blessing in disguise for me, but I think that has helped us correct our course, and we have changed the entire conversation with the way we were, engaging our employees, our staff. And now they're all working as associates, and they're very happy. And I can see that in their performance. I can see that.
Yeah. Okay. So, no, even now, I mean, since your organization is dealing with the senior citizens, especially senior citizens. So during the first wave of corona, so I mean, senior citizens were more prone for the infection of the virus. So
Yes.
during that particular phase, how did you manage? How did you tackle? I mean, the calls from the senior citizens coming to you, because that was a period where people were avoiding to, I mean, go reach to the senior citizens, especially because of reason of infection.
Yes. So one of the things, I have a very personal experience of what one goes through when there is a senior citizen at home, because my mother is a senior. So I took all the care that I would take about my mother. I took it about every single one of our customers. So one of the things we did was, all of our staff, any which ways they reside in our premises. So we made sure that they did not have access to the outside world at all. They were exceptionally isolated. Even when they wanted consumables, they had to just tell us, and we would purchase it and we would send it for them. So they did not have any access to anything outside of their homes, I mean, their quarters really. Everything gets delivered to them at the house. So to that extent, they were isolated. We never allowed them to use public transport. We transport them even till date. Since then, till date, we transport them in our own vehicles. So they are not exposed to anything outside. They're not exposed to any individual who may be prone to corona anywhere outside, except for the house of the patient itself. So if there is a corona positive person in the house of the patient where we are looking after him, then there is a likelihood of our staff getting exposed. But other than that, I don't see the possibility of them getting exposed. And by God's grace, God has been kind. We also did 2-3 other things. We kept a room for isolation. So anybody we saw had any we had any doubt of being exposed, we put them into isolation. So only after 3 days, when they did not show symptoms, then we got them out. So we incurred a lot of additional costs, and we took a lot of additional steps. We got them new uniforms to wear only in transit. So once they reached the residence of the customer, they would take off that uniform and they would wear the usual uniform, and then they would do their tasks. They would come back, change into the other uniform. So they had an in-transit uniform, they had an at-work uniform. They had in-transit masks and to work masks and face shields. So we took all of that care in the beginning. Now, of course, everybody is vaccinated, so that has also, so to say, subsided our risks to a great extent. But one of the best things that we did was we asked our customers to reduce the number of inflow and outflow. So wherever we had customers where we had to serve with two people, one is to serve during the day and one during the night, we reduced that to one person staying residential with them. So that is how we reduce the chances of exposure, and I think that has worked well for us so far.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, very nice work you are doing. Wonderful. Congratulations to your team.
Thank you, sir.
Meghnad has asked one more. Meghnad has some query, I think.
No, I don't think so. There was some other person who was asking.
Okay, one more. Yeah. Please.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, all. Yeah. The question I would like to ask you, ma'am, is first of all, hats off to your wonderful work and
thank you.
And revolutions. And your presentation so far. But my query was that I'm a student from Goa Business School, and I would like to know whether there is internships in your organization as well.
I can't hear you very clearly.
I would say I'm a Goa Business School student, but like from your organizations, I would like to know if there is internships. I mean, it was before COVID times, or now after the pandemic, like there is like that.
Yes, actually, we do have opportunities for internship. In fact, we had approached a couple of colleges also, asking them whether they would have students who would want to come and do the internships with us. Yes, we do. We have opportunities. You must send me your profile.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. No, the reason is that because even I have, but this is personal experience of taking care of a grandparent. But I can know that the medical procedures and all that I have yet to learn. But this is so far, like, I'm very fascinated with the way you have described everything, and also it is.
Mr. Almeida, I think what we could do is we could meet up and then explore whether that is really the area where you can contribute, or there are other fields where you can contribute, which is commensurate with your education and your background. Okay, because much as it looks very glorifying to take care of the elderly, it is a very difficult task.
Yes,
it is very, very challenging. Yeah. So we will certainly explore that as well. We must connect. You should write to me.
Ma'am, and like if there's time, so well, absolutely. If there is time, so absolutely, yes. I'd like to know. Thank you.
Sure.
Ma'am.
Thank you.
All the best for your work.
Thank you very much. You too. Thank you.
Any more queries? No. Yeah. If there are no more queries, I particularly liked your lecture, ma'am. Although I don't have no background of a management from science, but I liked very much because it gives an opportunity to me, especially to get some knowledge about startups and entrepreneurship. It was very good.
Thank you, sir.
And I am sure all the students as well as the other participants who are here, they must have gained some knowledge from, and certainly, they your experiences will help them to grow with the startup, new innovative ideas. So you nicely explained, you nicely explained those 5 golden rules, to start with innovative startups. Really nice. Even you shared your experiences of Seva, and how do you deal with the senior citizens, as well as how do you grow the business, and even still more you want to go out of the state to grow your business. That is what is more important, right? When you start with the small. So I like the way you started with a small feedback or a motivation from your mother, who was ill at home, and then she wanted sort of a help at home when you are not there. Yes. And then now you are going, and having your own startup and it is becoming, I mean, like a big tree. So that is wonderful sort of a thing. It's really motivating.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm sure, I mean, you also mentioned, no, I mean, a charity and business altogether different, no, sides of the coin. So we cannot club together, right? So that should be the, what you call, that should be the first thing, I mean, the business people should remember when they
Yes.
start. And at the end, I mean, you nicely explain what are the 5 P's for success. I'm very much impressed. So do I believe that my colleagues will. So with this, I mean, a very, very nice 1 hour lecture. We are very pleased. And on behalf of IIC, Institutions Innovation Council, and I'm hoping to meet you soon, and hoping to have your more lectures for our budding entrepreneurs who are
Thank you.
going. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for waiting and attending this talk. I hope it's added some value to you. And I wish you all the best in your ventures. God bless you all. Thank you very much, sirs, for having me here. It's been overjoying for me, really, to be a part of this. Thank you and have a pleasant evening. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rohini. Bye. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye.